Hi there. Wonderful. Let's get this going. And let's see if my view is. There we are. And there's Dawn. Dawn, how you doing? Can you say something so I make sure I can hear?
You bet. Can you hear me okay, Andrew?
Yeah, I hear you great. Dawn, awesome. And Dawn, where are you tonight?
Good. I am in a little town called Middlebury, Vermont.
Middlebury, Vermont. Wow. So this is your New England tour.
Yeah, I'll be here for a few weeks. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me
I will.
cool. Let me
Go
welcome
ahead.
everyone. Welcome everyone to this evening's IHA Live. We welcome horse enthusiasts from coast to coast and beyond the borders. And tonight we welcome Dawn Jessop of Mastery Horsemanship as our special guest. Along the way tonight, if you have a question for Dawn or me, please text us in the chat window. And when we get to the question and answer portion of our evening, we'll answer as many of your questions as practical. Collection's a big topic. And my IHA Live guest, Dawn Jessop of Mastery Horsemanship, and I are going to talk about it tonight. We call it finesse, riding with a frame or on the bit, or riding round. We call it dressage. We call it vertical flexion. We call it high-level work, and we call it many other things. Yet our guest tonight, Dawn Jessop, likes to call it simple. In fact, Dawn says that making things simple just makes them understandable and gives us a simple map to move forward and through. So welcome back to the IHA Live, Dawn Jessop.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back.
Wonderful. Well, Dawn, you've said that collection can be made simple in 3 understandable statements. Let's talk about those statements. The first one is, horses don't always travel in a perfectly balanced fashion. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. And you can hear me okay?
Hear you great, buddy.
Great. Thank you. So years and years ago, I started my career as an endurance racer, as a teenage kid, running long distance miles and 50-mile races. 4 hours and 15 minutes was my fastest race. And it was all about just getting from point A to point B as quickly as you can, with the horse staying in a healthy mindset and frame, so that the vet would pass you off when you checked out. And as a result of doing this, I always assumed that horses were these natural athletes, that all you had to do was get on and go. And then I met all these trainers like Monty Roberts and Pat and Linda Pirelli and John Lyons. And I spent most of my career in training with Pat and Linda Pirelli. And I remember one distinct conversation with Linda where she's talking about finesse, and she's talking about rounding the horse and causing the back to be stronger. And I stopped her right in the middle of her speech and I said, wait a minute, aren't these horses like naturally balanced? Aren't they naturally able to do these things? Why are we fiddling with them all of the time? Why do we need them to round? I mean, aren't they carrying themselves like an athlete? And she frankly said, no, not all the time. And she started to point out to me the little details about how a horse will not arch its neck, or how a horse will twist or contort its body, or pull its way forward rather than push, dip its back or tighten its back rather than let the muscles flow. And I started to see it. I started to see the signs, and I went, oh, okay, so what's the real benefit here of doing all this work? Because clearly you can get away without it. Why do we need to change them from any other perspective? And she said, well, frankly, they'll last longer, they'll live longer, they'll be happier and healthier horses by becoming more balanced and better athletes. Now, if we're going to turn them out into the field, it doesn't really matter. But if they're going to carry me and my saddle and my body weight, I should probably help them become better athletes and more balanced, kind of help them carry me. So that's why I mean they're not naturally balanced. And that was my early belief as a teenager that they were. I didn't think we needed to fix it, but we do. Not always, but if we want to get to the next level, there are some things we got to look at to help them.
Wonderful, Don. Well, in the second of three statements, since we'll go over the summary first here, you say that to balance a horse, we attempt to work with three major body parts. What are those body parts, and what do we as a rider need to do to work with those body parts?
Well, good question, and it's really this simple. There's a head, and there's the shoulders, and there's the hips. Those are the three major body parts. Of course, there's the feet and the joints and the neck and all of these pieces that come together, and the heart and the lungs and the mind. But strictly from a structural standpoint, the heaviest bone structure on the horse is the head and these big shoulders and these big hip bones. And they create this massive, I can't think of the word here. I want to say the word arms of this pendulum, but that's the wrong phrase. If you move or shift one of these big bony structures, it changes the entire balance of the horse. If the head comes up, then it changes the balance of the horse. If the head drops to the ground, the balance shifts again. If the hips slide to the outside or to the inside, it changes the balance of the horse. If the shoulder dives in or drops or drifts to the outside, the balance actually shifts. And when the balance shifts, the horse is at higher risk of injury. Their joints don't come together as well. Imagine circling a horse like we learned in Pirelli, where the horse goes round and round at the trot or canter. And if the balance is not set right, then he'll impact those joints so hard that it'll actually ruin the horse early. So if we can just think less about the feet, even though those are important, but just think a little less about the feet and put your attention to where is this head related to the rest of his body. And did you get the PDF I sent you? Are you able to screen share or do any of that?
Oh, I'm not sure I caught that. Let me take a look at it if you want to keep going with that.
Yeah, if we can find it, great. Yep. There's a few. I think I emailed it to you from one. I responded through one of your emails about. I said, "Here's a PDF." Hopefully,
okay. I'll look for it.
You have to scan through your emails. Oh, there's some photos there that might help us sort of put it into perspective. But the principle is this: if I can place the head in the right place and the shoulders in the right place and the hips, I can line them up in a straight line and then on an arc, then I can really start to impact the balance of the horse. And it really is that simple. Well, it gets more complicated, and everything that's done with mastery gets more complicated, and we can dive really deep into those little elements. And I hope that some of you have questions about your horse or something maybe you learned from a previous instructor, and we can talk about those little details, a little bit more of those details. But to bring it back just to this really simple process, we have a head, we have shoulders, and we have hips. And it's so, once you really see it and go, oh, no wonder my horse isn't giving me a flying lead change. His head is always off to the right and he never brings it to the left. Or that's more complicated, but more in a more simple fashion. No wonder my horse won't go into the horse trailer. His butt is like facing, it's not even lined up with his shoulders. His head's kind of looking in the trailer, but the rest of his body is angled away from the trailer. No wonder he doesn't go in the horse trailer. So if I put up these three bony structures, the head and the shoulders and the hips, and I cause them to line up, the horse will start to follow his nose forward in a really balanced fashion in any direction you want. Say you want them into the horse trailer, they will just climb right into that horse trailer for you. And when they don't, you can just stop and go, which one of these three things is out of alignment here? Oh, it's the shoulders. I got to tap on those shoulders with my stick and the horse will go in the trailer. Or I'm riding and I have to lift that inside rein and get that head and shoulder to stand back up and line up, and then we'll be able to pick up the left lead that we were struggling with. If you stop thinking about the feet and start thinking about those three big bony structures, it becomes very simple and very, very fun to ride in that fashion. Do you have any luck there, Andrew?
Yes, I believe it. Is this what you were looking for? Was the
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and scroll down just a little bit there for me.
Okay.
And we get to see a picture of, oh, it kind of didn't come out the way I'd hoped.
Okay, there is a there's another thing that came. I can do it.
That's the one. That's the one, but it just maybe it split it up onto different pages in a weird kind of way.
Okay. I can go back to just let me see if it showed it in 6 pages and it the other way. Hold on a second.
Go ahead. Take your time.
Yeah. It was this, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And then if let's see, I think if I can go like this, I can, whoops. Oh, maybe I can increment. I don't usually increment here, so.
That's okay. Can you just scroll down? Does it allow you to scroll down?
Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Is that better?
That's it. That's the one. That's one I wanted to show. So keep scrolling down for me just a little bit more. And we'll talk just really basically about these two pictures right here. Here's the contrast. So we have on the top a horse that we might consider not collected, no collection around us in the body. And on the bottom, we see a photo of a horse that is more collected, rounded. They're carrying themselves in a more elegant, more healthy fashion. So we kind of work towards these things so that our horses live longer and they can do more advanced maneuvers. And if you scroll down to the next page,
yep,
you're going to see some drawings. Not that one. We'll get to this a little bit later, but go down a few more pages. This one. Off to the left, we have the words aligned and not aligned. And we're basically describing on the top, under the word aligned, there's a horse arcing to the right and a horse going straight ahead. We have head, shoulders, and hips all lined up on that path, that track. And on the two horses below where it says not aligned, you'll see a straight line shooting straight up. And the horse on the left, it's got his nose tilted off that line. So we might call that not aligned. No. We go to the other picture with the horse, the arc to the right, and the horse is not arced to the right like the picture above. So we're starting to understand that it's really about the head, the shoulders, and the hips. And the reason I want to bring this up is because it simplifies everything we've been taught about collected riding and finesse, because we were taught that you have to round the head, or you have to pull on the bit, or they have to push from behind and the feet have to track up. We're taught all these wonderful things. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we're taught so many different things. And I can't see all of you on the call, but I bet you could raise your hand if you're taught something related to collection that was about the bit or the tool or the feet or the power or the engagement or the speed. All of those things we were connected to in most horsemen today still talk about these things. And I want to simplify it and say it's not about those things yet. First, it's about understanding where the head is related to the shoulders and the hips and learning how to guide that alignment. It's really that simple. I hope it's that simple. I hope that really stands out in your memory, and the rest will come.
Well, great. So Don, your third statement, and I'll stop that share. I'll bring it back when you want it. Your third statement is that horses learn, and we leaders should treat our equine partners more like students or athletes. Can you talk about that?
I can, thank you. So the horse, oh, God bless these horses. Raise your hand if you love horses. And raise your hand if you believe that they're like so forgiving of us crazy horse lovers. So things that we aren't really taught related to finesse. Now, if you're a Pirelli person, you've heard so much about the I shouldn't just say Pirelli, a natural horse person, because not all of us came from that background. Just you're natural, you want to build a relationship with the horse. You want to have this fantastic time where your horse has a good experience too. So this is not new information for most people coming from natural horsemanship. Some of the collected riding ideas might be new, but the idea that we're supposed to have a relationship isn't. However, traditionally, when we're taught to do finesse work, traditionally, not from a natural standpoint, we're taught to hold the horse in this space, in this frame. We're taught to line up the body parts and collect and flex this horse and hold them there. And we don't have to. The horse can actually learn to be lighter and more responsive and even enjoy this process rather than feel like they're going to the gym and they have to work out, or they're going to be this is a harsh way of saying it, so forgive me, but a puppet on a string. We don't want to be puppeteers where we've got this horse underneath us and we're just manipulating all of the pieces because it feels good to us. And collected riding tends to make us puppeteers. That traditional way of riding tends to make us like hold that horse in and hold that leg on and drive, and it's kind of sad in a way. We can actually keep the horse in mind more like a friend and an athlete and a student and say, no, you don't. Let me just show you what you can do here. Let me explain to you as the horse that you can just bend your head like this and just sort of tuck your head in, and I'll release and I'll reward you for that process. And you're going to feel like elated that you got to have this finesse experience with me. And I see even in natural horsemanship, I see people come into collected riding and they come in, and the minute they start, this something clicks in their brain from some other memory that says, we're here, so let's hold it together. And so they get into the trot, and the first thing is, how come my horse won't hold it together? And well, because he hasn't actually learned how to hold it together for even a couple of seconds. So let's break it down and make sure he can learn it in really bite-sized chunks and make it simple for him and enjoyable for him too. So that's where that comes from.
Well, Don, I love the process of us thinking about the horse as a student, because when I'm a student, I know if I feel too controlled or I feel put upon by the instructor, I'm not going to learn as well. And
Right.
if we treat our horses, and I've noticed, because I've been talk to you as well as others, that allowing the horse and recognizing that they're learning, and that we're responsible for the teaching, and we're responsible for allowing them to sometimes fail. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. We are absolutely, I like to say, when is a horse learning? And the answer is, of course, all the time. They're learning something. They might not be learning a technical thing, but they're learning something about you, about what you allow or don't allow, about what you like and don't like, about when you get frustrated and how to push those buttons or not push those buttons and hide from you. They're learning all of the time. And if we just let them be learners and kind of bring back and say, okay, what is dressage or collection or finesse? What is it? It's a series of pieces that come together to make this beautiful, harmonious picture in the end. You could pull up a YouTube of Charlotte Desjardins doing Grand Prix level half passes and pirouettes, and it's just so artistic and so beautiful. And you think that horse actually looks like he's having a good time. He's an athlete and he's strong and he feels good. And she drops the reins and walks around on a casual rein and pets her horse. You think that's good horsemanship. And she's not touted as a natural horsewoman. She's just really brilliant in dressage and in finesse. And the reason she's so brilliant is because she took all of these puzzle pieces and she spread them out. And she said, I'm going to work on this tiny one piece for a while. And she made it simple. She made it fun. And the horse goes, oh, I understand you now, because we've repeated this process so many times. This one singular piece of the puzzle so many times. I think I'm ready for two pieces of the puzzle. And it grows and grows into this beautiful, beautiful picture.
Oh, it's wonderful, Don. So in summary, these three keys here was that: one, horses are not always perfectly balanced. Two, we need to work with a horse's head, shoulder, and hips. And then finally, we need to treat our horses like students and athletes. So given that, how can we simplify our road to collection, Don?
Well, there's a couple of other things that you'll want to consider, but take that. If you're like to do journaling, definitely journal this. You've got this recorded, right? So you can watch it later, but do more than that. Pull out your pens and your papers and write these words down. Just say heads, shoulders, and hips lined up on a singular track. And that track, by the way, needs to be about 24 inches wide. You know, when we're riding a young horse, we're riding on it feels like we're riding on I-5. If you're from is it Los Angeles? I-5 goes through Los Angeles?
Yeah, I-5 runs up and down California.
Right, it's like 14 lanes in some places. And when you're on a colt and you're trying to go from north to south or south to north, it feels like you let them get away with this big track, because you're just kind of helping them learn how to go forward, but with finesse and with collection. Take those three body parts and put them in a 24-inch wide space. There's 36 inches. Some horses are bigger than others. And it stays narrow. And when you track ahead, you're going from point A to point B, or you're going around the corner in the arena. You don't just cut the corner and turn left. Go follow this track through that corner. So you learn to feel where those body parts are. So head and shoulders and hips all line up. Keep it that simple. And then we can start to talk about the next pieces where we actually get into conversations about flexion and guiding the horse into that.
Now, one of the things you talk about is to think smaller, right? Can you talk about thinking smaller?
Yeah, so thinking smaller is like what I said with the analogy with Charlotte Jordan. She takes all these pieces, this big puzzle, and she spreads all the pieces out and she does one thing at a time. Flexion work, just take the word flexion. It's not collection all by itself. The word collection, we should actually do some definitions here, just so you're kind of clear. And I hope you're writing stuff down, because when you write it down, it sticks into your head. Doesn't mean you got it in your hands and feet yet, but it sticks in your head. So collection is really taking the pieces and collecting them together, and you end up with a harmonious picture with the horse's balance. Flexion isn't collection all by itself. So when you flex a horse laterally or vertically, that's not a collected horse. You ask a horse to bend their nose in and round and be soft to your hands. We're just talking about flexion. So how do we look at flexion? Do we say that flexion is something that you do and start when you're trotting or when you're cantering? Or maybe we need to break it even smaller and say, you definitely don't start cantering and you don't even start trotting. Maybe we should start flexion work at the walk. And then you say, wait, stop. There's one more gait. I'm missing a gait. There's a gait called halt. And most people don't think of halt as a gait, but they should think of halt as a gait, because there's halt, walk, trot, and canter. And if we think of halt as a gait, we can assess our horse and say, how well does he maintain this gait called halt? Can my horse stand while I get on from the mounting block? That's called maintaining gait. When I stand there and I pick up my reins, does my horse back up or does he give me flexion? And I'll send him signals not to back up. But he needs to learn to maintain the gait and not just move because the reins move. Don't move his feet just because the hands went into operation. Stay put and learn how to flex your horse in a halt. And then you think, wait, there's probably an easier way to do this, or a more simple start. I'm going to take this idea of flexion, and I'm not going to start at the canter. I'm definitely not going to do the trot or the walk. I might not even do it sitting on his back. I'm going to get on the ground. I'm going to take that halter lead or that bridle, and I'm going to ask him to flex like this. And when he does, become soft and quiet and calm in his mind, because that's one of the pieces. We're not just training mechanics, we're also training the horse to be calm. When he becomes this calm, soft, quiet, responsive horse, I'm going to give him the reins back and I'm going to pet him. I'm going to say thank you. And so my students in my mastery program that are following me through this, we're actually mapping the whole collection process. I'm encouraging them all to start with me on the ground with their horse in the simplest fashion. Just take that halter lead, because the horse can do collected riding with a halter or a bit. We can get into that later. They can do it without either of those tools. But they take that halter lead and they twist it up like this, and the horse will follow that into a frame, not the perfect frame, not the collected piaffe and passage top level stuff, just a really basic conversation about, can you follow my hand? And then you release and you progress. And if you do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then take a break and do it another 5 times, and then take a break and another 5 times, it's one piece that you practice over and over and over with rewards. And the horse starts to go, I know what happens here. I know what you want from me. I can do this piece for you. And then we take that horse that's so good and so efficient with that simple task, and we sit on their back and we say, can you do that task for me while I'm sitting up here? The same task, we're not going anywhere. Don't worry, we're not trotting yet. Just, can you do that same thing for me? It's really that simple. We don't want to fall into old traps where we think, oh, collected riding, my horse is supposed to be engaged and forward and off my leg and into my hand. Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, that would be more advanced, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Don, I have to tell you, I had not thought about the halt as one of the gaits. It's just not natural. Well, I mean, perhaps it's natural, but it's not in my typical.
Is it right? It's not traditional. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, and so thinking about the halt as the opportunity to kind of check how things are going is awesome. But I really appreciate that you've even gone further than that and said, hey, what about before we even get onto the horse? Can we give him some basic exercises to say, this is how it feels, and to have that reward on the ground? And how powerful is that, Don? That just sounds great.
It's fun. It's so much fun to go out with your horse, and you don't have to tack up. You don't have to worry about whether or not he's going to be silly and not be a fun ride today. All you need is a halter and a line and a friendly hand, and you can teach your horse to be responsive and quiet and calm, all right there on the ground.
Oh
In fact,
gosh.
for the first, I was just going to say, from that early groundwork all the way into the walk and trot with flexion, I usually ride bareback, because I'm not working on powerful engagement. I'm not working on tracking up. That's a different piece of the puzzle. I'm just working on flexion. And people get confused and say, well, that's not collected riding. And I just have to say, well, you're right. It's only a piece of collected riding, a tiny piece. They see me riding around my horses, perhaps over bending, but he's super quiet in my hand and so responsive to my hand and so happy mentally, because I always release I don't release just because their head goes down. I release because they're quiet, they're calm mentally.
So you're
And
looking more than just a move. You're looking for almost like a mood to go with
a
that move.
mood, yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
wonderful.
And I'm bareback for those first few rides because I don't have to saddle for those. It's slow work, it's easy work, and that means I get to save time and have more time to train the horse, and I don't have to be tied into that saddle. Sometimes when you get in the saddle, you think, oh, I should do more now that I'm here. Maybe I should do some canter work. But being bareback, it kind of forces you to just say, no, I'm here to just work on the standing still flexion. That's it. And you can move forward from there. It's so much fun.
Oh, I
So
love it.
simple.
I'm looking forward to exactly that next time I go out with my horse. So Don, I know that many of us are too critical with our horses, and many of us are surrounded by people who will criticize us as
Yeah.
well as our steeds. I know that as a student, I always prefer the teachers who's willing to reward my try and my incremental progress. What do you have to say about that with regard to how we teach our horses?
Okay, well, regarding how we teach our horses, we should definitely be, and thank you, Andrew, for the question. It's a good one. We should definitely be less critical with our horses because you probably learned this, you probably remember this from Pirelli, at least, Andrew. I know you came from that background.
Yep.
The word don't assume, the phrase never assume, don't make an assumption about what your horse does know and doesn't know. That's really important. So being less critical means you don't assume. You don't think, well, my horse should be able to do this. So why isn't he doing it? And you get frustrated and you become critical and you become very forceful and you might yank on the horse, or this frustration comes out in a sharp way. Finesse, mastery, elegance, those are all synonymous to me. The word finesse, the word collection, it should be beautiful, it should be elegant. And if the minute you jab and you grab and you punch and you kick and you pull hard, that it erases that experience for the horse. So being less critical means it's not happening, but just be patient, hold on, wait. Just today here in Vermont with a really close friend, in fact, I'm staying with her. She's one of the most wonderful horses, Renee. Shout out to Renee. She's riding her horse Partner, and we're doing this collection work, and she's picking him up at the trot now. She's into that trot, and it doesn't always work. The horse is getting heavy in the hands, and I just said, just be patient and hold that tension, hold it together for a moment, and then suddenly there's a break, and the horse goes, "Is this what you want?" Because we did this in the walk. "Is this what you want?" And she's able to release the reins and say, "Yeah, that's what I wanted. Good job."
Mm.
So being less critical, it means you don't need it right now. Give yourself 10 days with each puzzle piece. Don't try to get 5 puzzle pieces in one day. Just stick with that. And Renee now is going to go out there every day for 10 days and just stick with trotting and framework at the trot. She's going to do great with that simple thing. So that's from the horse's side, but I have to bring it back to the people side, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
The reason not being critical is so important from the people side is that it's super easy to, well, I should just say, I can't see all of you. I wish I could, but raise your hand if you've ever had somebody say you're doing it wrong.
Well, lots of
Somebody
hands are
said,
going up, Don.
yeah,
They're like crazy on the call. Yes.
yeah. Somebody, and you raise your hand if it's somebody that you know doesn't actually know what they're talking about. Okay, there's a few of us that have had those experiences where we've had teachers tell us to change what we're doing, but when the friend shows up and says, you shouldn't do it that way, you're like, well, how do you know? I mean, we're just on these different paths. And so I try to erase right and wrong. I don't want us to be judgmental about other people's experience, because I don't want to be judged by them for my experience. So a really close friend of mine, Susan, says she came from the medical industry and she got into horses later in life and accepted the horses as part of her retirement. And she told me in private, she's like, I've never seen such a critical industry as the horse industry. everybody's biting at each other and saying, that's not how you do it. You do it like this. No, that's wrong. Don't do it that way. It's incorrect. And I just want to say, stop, everybody, stop. Stop. It's okay. Let's take a breath. We're all in this together. And you're going to see somebody one day and they're going to pull too hard on their horse and they're going to be too sharp with their horse. And you're going to want to say something. I encourage you not to. Don't say anything unless you see some blatant angry human activity that could be dangerous to the human or the horse. Just don't say anything. Don't be critical. Let them experience. You're going to see them doing things that you don't like. They're going to be pulling too hard on the reins and the horse's mouth is wide open and they're going to be pushing, drive with their feet. And from a natural horsemanship perspective, we look at that and go, that's not elegant, that's not pretty, but just be patient. Let them have the experience. The horse is not in any kind of danger, except for becoming very dull and not liking the experience. But just let people have their experience. If they have a bit that you don't like, let them have that bit. If people have really good intentions if you let them shine. They might have bad techniques, they might have bad tools, but they have good intentions and they're trying. So when it comes to collected riding specifically, there's more criticism than any other part of the industry. If you get into a dressage class with one instructor and then the next week you go to a different instructor, those two instructors hate each other. It's almost always the case. They don't like the way they do it. They say that's not how you do it. And I want to just say there's so many ways that, Andrew, if you could pull up that PDF
Sure.
one more time.
Bring it
I'll
back.
show you what I mean by that.
Okay, show me which page did you want there, buddy?
Up from this one.
Up above.
Up from this one.
Okay.
Yeah. This one here, this page here. Here on the side we have these different modes of collected riding that people understand throughout the industry. So this is why I want us to be less judgmental. The first one is what we call a heavy, tight-handed collection. And it's probably the most common type of collected riding you'll see in the world today. You see it in dressage. It's kind of a German-based dressage type training. But there are some benefits to this. So I don't want to say this is wrong. We can get back to the benefits in a moment, but just take it and go, okay, there's one way. And then we look at the next one and say there's light avoiding hand collection. Instead of a tight hand, might call this an avoiding hand type of collection. We see this in the Western world, like in the cowboy dressage world. And we see the horse overbending a little bit and even hiding from the bit. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the expression hiding from the bit.
My horse sometimes hides from the bit. I know he does. Yes.
So we look at this and say, let's not be too quick to judge and say this one's the way to go and that one's not the way to go. And we can talk about the benefits and consequences as we develop more words around this conversation and we get to ask and answer questions. But for now, let's just look at them objectively and say, okay, there's one way. And here's another way. The third one down, and we call overcorrect collection. And in the modern world, there's another term we use, it's called roll cur. And raise your hand if you've ever heard the expression roll cur is really, really bad. Shouldn't do roll
I see
cur.
hands going up on the call,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and that, let's just pause for a minute and go, I don't like it, that's fair. But let's just pause for a minute and say, okay, that's one way that people are figuring out how to do this. And by the way, people achieve really, really high levels with this. To be clear, I don't like it, but let's not just chuck it out and judge too quickly. They've got good intentions. Most people have good intentions, let's put it that way. The next one down we might call natural collection. Go down just a little bit more.
Sure.
I'm sorry, not natural collection, undercorrect collection.
This is the one.
Yeah, this means you basically don't overcorrect the horse. You avoid, never let your horse go behind the vertical. Raise your hand if you've heard that one. Never let your horse go behind the vertical. Any hands going up there? I would assume so.
Yep, definitely.
So this is just pause for a minute and go, wait a minute. Why are you afraid of going behind the vertical? Maybe there's some value in going behind the vertical, and maybe there's some value in staying in front of the vertical, and maybe there's some value in being tight-handed sometimes and loose-handed sometimes. And the next one down, we call natural collection. And natural collection is a highly specialized method for training horses to understand how to be balanced for the advanced maneuvers while staying relaxed and soft, ultimately not needing the reins to collect and support the horse, even in elevated maneuvers. The last paragraph there is me just describing what mastery collection is. To me, it mirrors natural collection the most. It's about soft, quiet responses from your horse. But mastery is about understanding why people do the other methods and what is good and bad about those other methods. And this helps me step back and say, okay, when I see that, I'm not going to just jump in and say, you're an idiot for doing it that way. I'm not going to say that's wrong. I'm going to stop and say, hi, my name's Don. What's your name? I can see you love horses. You must love horses as much as I do to be at this level. Tell me about your horse. How old is he? And I develop this relationship with a person. Then one day we go for a ride, and one day he sees me riding with collection and goes, how do you do that? How do you take the bridle off? How do you get that round shape with your horse? And he's so calm. How do you get that pee off and that passage? And your horse isn't even anxious about it. They start asking these questions because we developed a friendship, because we're both horse enthusiasts. Wonderful. And I can't stop people from criticizing me, but I'm certainly going to encourage you to stop criticizing each other. And the last thing on that, this is short. Don't be too quick to criticize yourself. Raise your hand if you've ever thought, I suck at this. I'm never going to get this. Yeah. You can just pause for a minute and say, wait a second. Don said, don't be too critical. So I'm going to give myself a break. I'm doing the best I can. It's time to dig in and learn a little bit more.
Yep. Wonderful. Well,
go deep.
Yeah. Let me stop the share on that one back. Bring us back here. So Don, my mother once bought me a coffee cup, and it read, God grant me patience, and I want it right now, which is kind of natural for me, right? And so what do you say to us horse enthusiasts that need to practice more patience with our equine partners?
Oh, good question. I mean, first thought that comes to my mind is you got to practice patience with yourself first. I mean, next time you eat a bar of chocolate, don't just beat yourself up. Just breathe and say, okay, this happens sometimes. I know it's not good for me to just keep doing this silly behavior that I have, but it's okay. It's okay. Be patient with yourself. You know you have a path, and I don't mean to beat on chocolate. I love chocolate. I'm just saying, like moderation, right? And be patient with ourselves to start. But to be patient with your horse means that I like to change my expectations. My horse is guaranteed. I have some really, really well-trained, beautiful horses. Anybody who had ever been around them and worked with them would say, yes, I think they're great. I can ride them. They're safe. They're fun. You can do advanced things. But I guarantee you, 100% guarantee you, they will bite, kick, buck, rear, spin, bolt, strike, as well as any horse you've ever seen.
Yep.
So
mine do it. I watch it in the pasture every day.
Yeah. And you can have a great day on Thursday and a bad day on Friday. And being patient means you knew that. You knew that would happen. You knew that these are expected because they're horses. So Yesterday, I got flexion with my horse and it felt so easy. Oh, light as a feather. Today, I got it, but it was hard work. It took like twice as long. Okay, I knew that would happen. I knew this was going to happen. We have a poem that we like to use. I talk about it in my clinics and in my mastery Zoom calls. And it goes like this. You can write it down. 1, 2, we can do. 3, 4, not anymore.
1, 2, we can do. 3, 4, not anymore.
5, 6, it looks fixed. 7, 8, not so great. 9, 10, we're back again. It's a simple way of remembering that our horses are going to cycle through moods and distractions, and we can just breathe and say, this is a long journey. Did you know that the best dressage trainers in the world, take Walter Zettel, who accomplished extraordinary things as an athlete and then as a coach. He says that at his level of understanding, at his level, imagine how good he is to have trained so many horses at such a high Olympic level. So he's very, very talented and very clear about his path. At his level, it says it takes him a full year to develop a single flying lead change with his horse.
A year.
And you think, why don't I give flying changes? I've been at this for 2 years. Relax, breathe. It's a long journey. It's going to take another 2 to 3 years to develop tempi lead changes, so they're consistent and they're available and you have access. So just back off, let your horse go through moods and swings, end on a good note, be super patient.
Oh, I love it. So Don, before we look at some of the questions from the audience there in the chat, and by the way, I see a couple of questions on the chat, but I'd love to see more. We'll have some time for questions. Can you tell us about your Mastery University and how one would get admitted to that university and how one would become a student of the Mastery University?
Thank you. That's wonderful you would offer to let me talk about that. Thank you so much. So Mastery University it's essentially at the core, it's what you and I are doing right now, Andrew. We're going to meet every single week in a conversation like this. Every week I meet with my Mastery students and we talk about collection, we talk about liberty, we talk about trail riding, we talk about problem solving, we talk about Mustangs and warm bloods and mules and everything in between. The topics vary. Have I still got you? I still got you. Good.
Yeah. I'm good. Thanks.
You know how it pauses sometimes?
Yep.
You think, oh no, my internet. So we talk about all the wonderful aspects of horsemanship. We have time, like we'll have in a few minutes, for Q&A. We always set time aside every week for Q&A. So we set goals. We get to know the individual's personality and goals and perspective of where they came from and where they want to go, and we help map that path forward. That's the biggest thing. We also bring on lots of guest speakers. We had some wonderful trainers come on recently. Thanks, Patty. I see that.
Yeah, Patty just commented that it's the best course ever. It's highly recommended. She highly recommends Don Mastery Horsemanship courses with a lot of exclamation points.
She did.
Yeah, good job, Patty.
So we try to cross train with our guest speakers. We have many of the same guest speakers you would have, David Lichman and so on, but we also brought in this shark trainer, someone who literally works with sharks at the bottom of the ocean. We brought in a dolphin trainer and an alligator trainer, and we're crossing over and we're pulling ideas from other elements of the world and saying, how does this apply to us? And so we're growing deeper and deeper and deeper connection and understanding about the horse and how to move forward. And so we meet weekly. We talk about all kinds of stuff. There's also access to courses that are more structured. So you take step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3. a whole variety of courses, from rider confidence courses to Liberty courses to the collection stuff that we're talking about now, and so on. And then a lot of private time as well. So if you wanted to schedule some private time, that's part of what you're paying for. You call me or text me and say, I got a question. This happened to me today. I got questions from my students. I got a text message, and I jump on the phone and I say, how are you doing? What can I help you with? And sometimes it's instant, and it depends on where I'm at or where my wife is, depending on how quickly we can help. But it's almost always right there to help you answer something in the moment. If not in the moment, we schedule it and we spend some time to uncover what's going on. I mean, we're talking with one gal about using the flank rope and teaching this horse to stop bucking. And she needs very specific targeted information for her horse, because if the timing's off, it doesn't work the same for everybody else's horse. So she sends me video, and I'm able to watch the video and guide this horse, her and this horse. We can do live coaching as well. So it's a virtual experience, but I have some of my students who will have a friend hold their camera or put their camera in their pocket and go out and play with their horse, and I'm right there guiding them through. It's like, okay, step one, show me what you got. Step two, let's go, let's advance. And everything takes this ladder step forward for each person in the university. There's more. We've actually got a summer course that's free to all the gold members. I have a bronze, silver, and gold access. People come to Montana. It's scheduled for late July, and they're going to join me for some riding classes, inspirational sort of demonstrations, and then just casual time, hang out and enjoy the life with horses in Montana. And there's even a few more details. I can't cover everything, but we have 5 levels you can certify through. It's free to certify through the levels. So that's all part of the university. And the way you get access, you click on my website and look up Mastery University, and you can look at the prices right there, and you can decide if I want to join. And it's a monthly thing, so it's not a long contract. You just say, I want help, I want to be inspired, I want to see how this works, I'm going to join for a month and try it out. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee. If after a month you're like, nah, it's not for me, that's cool. You're on your own path, and we want to support you. If you love it, you stay for 2 months. And some of my students, our students, some of the mastery students have stayed with us for years. They're growing and growing and growing in their horsemanship each year, tackling more advanced subjects and having a blast doing it. So that's what the Mastery University is. Thank you for letting me share.
Well, one of the things I like to talk about with all of my guests is the revolution in horsemanship and what it means to mankind, which of course is that's the title of the 2005 book by Dr. Robert Miller and Rick Lamb.
Yeah.
And from that book, he mentions probably on the order of 70 people that have been doing things. And I met you in Pagosa Springs at the International Study Center for Natural Horsemanship.
Yeah.
And I had the joy of getting to know you in person, and of course I had even known Rachel, your wife. We're going to talk about her in a minute. Before that, and I remember when you were starting to say that you were going to be offering this distance learning, and to my knowledge, you were one of the early adopters. How long has it been that you've been providing this distance learning, private coaching?
Oh, geez. 10 years at least, 12 maybe, 13 maybe.
That makes sense to me, because it was a while since Renee and I've been back to Pagosa Springs, but I thought you were at the front. And part of the revolution in horsemanship, and of course what it means to mankind, which is what we're talking about, is how we have access to excellence. And it's obvious, I knew a long time ago you were excellent, but I love to see where you brought this in terms of how you can offer this to people from all over. Can you say anything about the geography, about how far people are, how far flung some of your students are?
Yeah, we, because it's a month-to-month thing, not everybody stays forever. So I might get some students from England through the summer season, and then they back off. I'll get students from Australia and New Zealand through their summer, and then they back off because they do less riding in the winter. Some students have the ability to work all the way through the summer, and we have people throughout the United States playing with their horses all year long and advancing. And it's so across the world, Australia, New
That's
Zealand, and all over the place.
That's
Yeah.
spectacular. I love to hear that, because that means that the revolution is continuing. We're taking advantage. You're taking advantage, as some of the others are, on the technology. And I love the fact that, yeah, I've got my cell phone. I can carry it around in my pocket, or mount it on a fence or whatever, and be able to get private lessons from you, essentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, private lessons are important. And, when you look at the Mastery University and what it costs, I can break it down for you in a simple way. If you take a private lesson every week with a good instructor, it's going to be expensive. And
Mhm.
we're nowhere near that expensive. If you work weekly and you're getting so much more, and you're getting some private time if you want it. But I'll tell you what the real true value is in this. And you guys are doing it too with the IHA. You guys have a really cool system. So I encourage any of you that aren't like IHA members to join and think about it, because here's what I had in Pirelli. And here's what we all miss so much about those early days in Pirelli. We sat down to lunch and dinner and breakfast with the best horsemen in the world. You sat next to Pat Pirelli some days you sat next to Carmen Zulauf, some days you sat next to Mikey and Wally and Hansa and Rachel and Inga, and you sat next to these people that were so talented, and you broke bread with these amazing horsemen and horsewomen. And that we miss that in today's world, but we can bring it back with this virtual experience. Every week we can sit down with excellent horsemen and horsewomen and chat with them and say, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, I just had this thought. What do you think about that? That's available to us now. And that's where my deepest learning came from. And we can do more and more of that. I love this platform.
Well, I love it too. And one of the things I got to, we got to pay our sponsors here. I got to tell everybody here about the relationship-based, our horsemanship friends on the call, about a special opportunity to sign up as a member of the International Horsemanship Association, where excellent horsemanship unites. And our special discount that we're offering tonight for those on the call is normally the digital membership is $5.95 per month, and you can save, and you could purchase a yearly membership for $49.99. However, tonight we're offering a discount. Our discount code gets you 25% off that digital membership if you type in LIVE20, L-I-V-E, capital L-I-V-E 20, for 20% off annual digital membership. And so while you usually, the discount, if you take the annual, it's $49. With the discount, you're going to be at $39.99 to be a part of this. And again, it's only applies to new memberships, non-renewals, and for annuals, not for the monthly option. But for that, you get the digital IHA journal. You get access to the Grades of Horsemanship, which is a non-denominational program for tracking your progress. You get access to the member forum, the classifieds, the IHA Academy, and the ability to submit to the Grades of Horsemanship assessments. But best of all, you get to be in this group and enjoy what we're doing. So it's LIVE20, capital L, capital I, capital V, capital E 20 for a discount off that annual digital membership. Dawn, before we go on to the questions, and we're doing okay on time. I know your wife is a highly capable, also a graduate of the Pirelli Professionals program. Tell us what Rachel's up to.
Oh, well, let's see, Piaffe, Passage, half passes, Tempe lead changes, trail riding all over the place, and generally just living the dream, I should say.
Wonderful.
If you knew Rachel, you know she's a fantastic teacher, and it's just in there. It's like something natural. She's very, very good at it. But her real true passion is riding her horse. And it's so inspirational to watch. I get to go out. I mean, I ride too, and I learn and I grow, but my passion is in teaching. It's in sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to go out and watch one of the best riders and trainers and most dedicated students of the horse every day of the week. And we get to sit down, and she'll ask me, like, how did that look? And do I need to change something? And I can give feedback. And then of course we reverse that, and I ride and she gives me feedback. But she's doing extraordinary things at the highest level and loving every minute of it. You know, sometimes people look at us and they think, man, you guys must ride like 24/7. Are you ever not on a horse? And the truth is we rarely are on a horse. This front is that we're always with our horse all the time. So this is another part about being patient, not giving yourself a guilt trip. We don't get as much time with our horses as you might think. But when we do, the time is so quality and so fun. And our horses look at us in the pasture and say, how about now? Are we going to go out sometime and play? And I love that feeling. And Rachel gets that every time she goes to play with her horses too. So you can do these really high level things and still have that connection. That's what's so cool about it. And she shows that every time.
Oh, she's a love. I remember her even before I'd met you, and what a great lady she is. I had a pleasure of having a lesson with her, and I think you're absolutely spot on that one. So
yeah,
what a pleasure to have her. And then of course, how's the youngster doing? How old is she now?
she's 13, and
Wow.
she's
I can't believe she's 13.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. This is strictly between you and me. So
Oh,
hush,
secret,
hush.
our secret.
She's learning how to drive a car.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah, on the ranch, right?
well, sometimes on the back roads.
Uh-huh. My brother was
She's-
teaching me at 14, so
I know, right? But I know. Not supposed
But
to be
that's
on the
wonderful.
roads. No. But she's learning that kind of stuff. She doesn't have the horse bug. She didn't get it. But she does from time to time get a ride with us, and she enjoys it. She has a lot of fun.
That's great.
So,
That's
yeah.
wonderful. So let's get to some of the questions, Don, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up a little bit in my list here, because one of my friends out here in California was saying, let's see if I can, this is Anita. And she says, oh, I'm older, so my introduction to dressage was more of an inviting the horse to dance with her. And she tries to keep that in mind and only ask herself, and only ask my horse questions that he or she can answer with a yes. Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a dance. I can't see you, so I can't see your hands, but if I could, I'd be curious how many of you have actually taken a dance class? You've gone to a ballroom dance or a swing dance, some kind of dance class, okay? The instructor broke it down step by step, let you win. They let you win. They let you have these experiences where you walked away at the end of the class if they're a good instructor, and you felt like, I am learning something. It's not something you can go and show off to your friends yet, but it's something that feels good. And that's what it should feel like to the horse too. You have some experiences where, yes, sometimes you need to be firm, but not mad, not frustrated, and not quick, just firm, slow and firm. Sometimes you need to be patient. Sometimes you need to be strong. Sometimes you need leg to get on there, and sometimes it's a stiff, firm hand, but not mad, not strong, not mean. And then it breaks free, and you have this moment where the horse says, oh, I understand. And they give you a yes answer, and you reward them heavily, and they have the greatest time doing this dance with you. It's a great way to think of it.
No, I love it. Now, Anita went on to say that she has thoroughbreds, high drive horses. And it seems like after they learn the concept of yielding, trotting is the speed that they're most comfortable at. So, and they seem to learn best at, for her, using this manner of teaching and inviting them to learn and try, is it okay to let them trot to stay comfortable?
Yes, yes, it's a great question, Anita. You will be limited, however, if you stay in that mindset where trotting is the easiest. It's true, it actually is. Trotting is probably the most efficient, easiest place to learn about driving forward and rounding and being kind of quasi collected. It just sort of flows. Everything sort of flows a little bit easier in the trot most of the time. However, if I stay with that and I kind of revert to that, I'm missing out on some really, really important pieces of the puzzle. The work you do in the halt and the walk will develop the canter better. You'll develop a stronger, more efficient canter by doing more walk work, for instance. So it's actually harder. It's much harder to collect your horse and go forward with collection in the walk. You have to use more leg. You have to get your horse to be snappier off your leg, because otherwise your legs get tired pushing the horse, and you don't want that. So there's a whole nother conversation about training the horse to be sensitive rather than just not a puppet on a string. You're not just guiding them forward, you're teaching them to go forward and be rewarded for it. So that's another conversation. It goes deeper. But if you can get the basics of the walk and the halts, you know the trot's going to come easy. Go for the canter too and try it out. You're going to grow so much further. But you're not wrong at all, Anita. The trot can be very, very easy for most of us.
Great. Well, one of our guests, Dee Dee, said she was describing earlier in the call, and I got to tell you, the spirit of this call has been, I don't know any other way to say it, Zen with you, Don, and very calming. And I plan to take this with my horse, but she was expressing that what a wonderful way to build a friendship. All of these things that you've described tonight. So I think that's wonderful. And then the analogy and the talk about the horse as a student and as an athlete. So many people think about the approach of training as being behavioral only, and we're not really giving the horse credit to be the student and the athlete that they are. Do you have more to say on that?
Mm-hmm. We first want to think of our horse as our friend, because we come from a much happier place like that. But we quickly want to advance from that kind of mindset into, now my friend is let me just be clear, a friendship doesn't usually have a clear leader. Mm-hmm. So if you don't care about advancing with your horse, you can live in this friendship where you're kind of equal partners in everything you do. You give a little, take a little, can't really do much, but you like each other and it's fun. But if you want to advance, one of you must step up as the leader, and probably should be you. If the horse
I hope so.
Steps up as the leader, you'll advance towards the ground a little bit too quickly. So we like to think that you step up as the leader. And once you assume that leadership role, you gotta kind of stop looking at your horse as a friend. Although you are very close, you love that horse, that you are friendly and they are friendly to you, but now they're your student. Now they're your athlete, and you're the coach and you're the teacher. You can go back and be friends in an hour from now when you're done. But for this hour, I'm going to step up and I'm going to be the coach. And I'm going to guide this horse through this process and teach him and to hold his body and hold his mind in a really positive place and reward him for that. And he'll walk out of that session. Just today, we did a session on fitness. Fitness is part of collection. Horse has got to be fit. Horse needs to be able to canter for about 2 to 3 minutes without breaking down and falling apart. And it starts slow. You start off with 10 seconds and build it to 20 seconds and it grows. But After a while, you need to think, my goal is to get my horse up to about 3 minutes of cantering. He's that fit, he's that strong, he doesn't fall apart anymore. And we were working on this fitness, and the horse kept saying, I'm tired, can I stop? And as a friend, you say, oh, yeah, I guess so. But as a coach, you're watching their vitals and you're saying, I can tell you're breathing hard, but I think you got more. Go a little further for me, please. And then sometimes they say, no, I don't want to. And as a teacher, you say, I knew that was going to happen. I knew you were going to say no. Let's work through this. Come on, get through it. It's okay. It's going to be better on the other side. And because of that work, on the other side of this session, this learning session with this horse, this coaching session with this horse, on the other side of it, your horse's body is filled with endorphins. And all these recovery, this cellular recovery starts to happen. And raise your hand if you've ever done any kind of physical activity that beats you up. I mean, not to where you're hurt or in danger of injuring, but your muscles are aching and your breath is gone. But give yourself 24 hours or 36 hours and notice how you feel. Your body feels amazing. You're like, oh, I wish I had the discipline to do this more for myself, because this feeling, all this recovery happening on a cellular level makes me happier. It makes me healthier. And the breaking down, the coach does that to the muscles. The coach will take the muscles and break them down to a point where they can recover health in a healthy fashion. And you kind of have to do that if you want to develop fitness. You kind of have to put on that new hat where you're not just a friend, you're a leader.
I love the analogy. That's great. I want to comment that Farrah Green, who of course is one of the founders and of course the president of the IHA, was commenting that she just loves your open and inviting attitude. And we're so happy to have you, Don. And when Farrah gives somebody the yes, that's a great one. That you and I both go a long way back with Farrah, and
yeah,
that's a great compliment to receive.
Yeah, she's a good girl. Farrah, we love you. Love you and miss you. This is fantastic to be able to sit down and chat. And I just have to say, I don't know everything. I know a lot because I study like mad and I am passionate about what I teach. But I don't know everything. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly checking and rechecking what I'm teaching to make sure that it's accurate and make sure I'm coming from the right place. Because I actually teach, one of the things we talk about in collection is teaching the horse to be flexed. And sometimes the horse will overflex. I actually encourage that because the horse, for a variety of reasons, but simply because the horses kind of live naturally with their horse out in front, with the nose out in front of the vertical. So to come behind the vertical a little bit from time to time can be useful. The horse can find that middle space. But when I teach that, I have to know that that's coming from a solid background and it's not just some opinion that I have. Where is this coming from? Well, let me stop and check with the elite riders in the world. Let me talk to Philippe Carl. Well, we just interviewed Carmen Zuloff, who worked directly with Philippe Carl, and we said, tell us about this flexion and collection stuff from your perspective. Are we on the right track here? And turns out we are on the right track. Sometimes we're not on the right track. Sometimes we have to go, oh, you know what I was talking about a few months ago? Let's advance and grow beyond this point. Let's not lock that technique in as the only way we do this. Let's adapt a little bit more and grow a little bit more and go deeper. So I just like saying that I don't know it all. And so I don't ever want to come across as that guy that knows it all. I'm a student and I'm on the same journey you're on, and I want to be on that journey together because that's the fun. That's the fun part for me.
Absolutely. We're all students always. And I think that's what draws so many. Well, I think that's a common thread of the people that tend to find their way into relationship-based horsemanship. one of the things that what we were talking about, how long you've been at that, how long you've been at your distance learning, and Patty Woodward said that she started when you first offered it, and it was right after Shauna was born. So we're
13 years.
oh,
13
so you know,
years, yeah.
yeah, okay, got it, perfect.
Shona's my daughter, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. I had, oh, here's a good one here. Shauna Town asks, Don, I'm interested in your thoughts about the 3 body parts you seek to balance with different breeds of horses. I have a Georgian Grande who's, I don't know if is Georgian Grande, do I say it the Spanish way? Anyway, his head and neck are very upright naturally. He's young and he's been learning how to relax and carry himself at a standstill with lowering his head and neck, as well as some vertical flexion. And we're starting to get this at the walk. It's very hard for him to hang on to this head neck carriage because it conflicts with his natural conformation. Am I being fair to expect this over time and practice? And she says, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, you're being fair to expect it over time and practice. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair at all to expect it today or tomorrow. But take that year-long or 2-year-long or 5-year-long journey, and absolutely you can expect this horse to find himself. We work with all breeds, and one of the breeds that you think, I don't know, Andrew, if you can like Google the word Haflinger or the word fjord, bring up a picture of a fjord.
Oh yeah, those are beautiful. Let me see what I can come up with, buddy.
And show the audience what a fjord looks like. And most of you know what a fjord looks like, but this is one of the horses that we use as an illustration to sort of describe, like, anybody can do this. Any horse can do this. You might not get to the Olympics because your draft horse or your mule or your quarter horse doesn't have the movement. But take a look at this fjord. Like, they're big, bulky animals with these huge necks. And click on the picture just right, not the one galloping, but the one standing.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah, yeah. All right. You think, how is that horse going to give vertical flexion and engagement and collection? And they do, and they look amazing. And they soften their frame and they round this big stiff neck. Click on the one with the baby up to the left of the.
Okay, I got to move a chat window. Oh, this one, yeah. This
is cool. Look at that mare. It's a big, thick, and really short coupled neck there. You can see the vertebrae in the neck are really shortly tied together. How is that horse going to round and soften and be quiet and calm in the mouth and give you all of that vertical flexion? Well, they do, if you take your time. So I'm not really familiar with the breed you described, but I am 100% confident that, like the American Saddlebred often has a really high headset. Those all horses, regardless of their natural set, can learn to line up their body parts and be super happy in that space. And when they line up, it's like you hunched over a computer and then you sit up and you bring your shoulders back and you breathe. It feels different. It feels good. And the horse learns that too. So absolutely. Expect it over time and practice. Absolutely. Great question.
Yeah. Kim says that she's thrilled with your positive and supportive attitude to everyone, whether they're on your path or striking out on their own. And we all must find our way. And some of us with mentors and others by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
One of the things that you commented on was maybe the traditional or some of the high level instructors that are criticizing each other. And one of the things that I always thought was interesting, being in natural and relationship-based horsemanship, is that instructors actually encourage people to cross-train with other natural and relationship-based horse people. And I think that's wonderful. Can you talk about that? And because it just doesn't seem to be a competitive environment. It's a collaborative environment amongst relationship-based horse professionals.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you guys are doing this and that more and more people are willing to do it. I wish more would do this. There does seem to be, I wrote an article about this a few years ago, the possessive horse instructor. There does seem to be the industry's changed, right? I mean, we used to,
We're having a revolution. We're having a revolution.
Yeah. And 120 years ago, horses were our transportation. They were everything for us, and that changed. We don't need them like that anymore, but we still need them. And there's a lot of reasons why I think we still need horses.
Oh gosh, yes.
But because it's changed, when the market gets new instructors are often inclined to sort of hold on to what they have from a student base. And the easiest way to do that is to say, don't study with that guy, he does it wrong. I don't like it. I don't like what he does. Don't go there. Don't do that.
A bad mouthing the other guy, right?
Yeah. And I think we can stop. I honestly think that we can just, if we hear these messages often enough and communicate with each other, we can stop that. We can just say, hang on a minute. I bet I could learn something from that guy. I don't like what he does, but I bet I could learn something from him. And having that open mindset is going to shape our industry in such a positive way. And of course it starts with me as an instructor and you as a collaborator, but it really starts with you, the listener, deciding to hear information and not lock it in as the way, but just one way. It's just a way to do it. And that's great. Put it in your, Linda Pirelli would say, put that arrow in your quiver.
In your quiver.
Go find another arrow. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Ada, who of course is calling in from Nova Scotia, she's the other 5 time zones away from me and up late.
Yeah, I guess
she says she's craving the sort of mentorship and community that we offer, and especially somebody who's perhaps remote. Isn't it wonderful that, one, we have the IHA, of course, and but also that the collaborative instructors and now distance learning, you've been at it a long time, you're one of the veterans, and we're seeing some great work all over the place. Don, where do you feel we're going in terms of the revolution?
I think to a really, really good place. I think we're headed in a good place for the horses. I think horses are going to start having a better life with people. I think people who love horses are going to start having all people are affected by people around them. So if you're a horse lover, there's people around you that are going to be affected by you. But people are going to start having a better experience in life because of the horse. The horse is going to shift and change the way we view ourselves. The best metaphor for the horse is the human brain, I believe. And this revolution in horsemanship is going to literally change the way we think about us, about ourselves, about our identity and who we are and what we're capable of. And when the horse reacts, we can look at ourselves and go, do I react like that sometimes? When do I react like that? Could I change that? Could I coach myself to stop reacting like that? I think it can just shape our whole world, and horses can be a part of that new. I mean, they built the industrial revolution that we had. Horses started that. Horses gave us power and energy and focus, and they're doing it again, and they're doing it on the inside now. They're giving us a new force.
I'm very excited about what's going on in equine therapy, and I'm noticing that I'm doing some work with Dr. Hollenbeck, who's another. He and I are on the Pirelli Foundation board, and he's a retired colonel, and he said that while he was working on base, if he got around horses, because there happened to be horses on base, his own PTSD got better. And he started assigning his crew to start being there. And then since he's retired, he's doing so much more with equine assisted therapy. And I'm so excited about that work. I know the horse, and he believes, even as a medical doctor, it's one of the horse is a unique supporter of therapy. And I find it therapy just to be with my horse. But Don, I got to tell you what, I feel therapeutic just having talked to you tonight. So I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Yeah. Well, they are an amazing animal. Absolutely. And some people don't have the H chromosome. I learned that today. One of my
The
students said,
H chromosome.
you have to have the H chromosome. Some people don't have it. They have the D chromosome. They love dogs.
Mm.
They love cats. They love wild tigers at the zoo. They love, it doesn't actually matter. The horse is part of that, of our journey forward as a species. And I think it's a wonderful part, but so are the other animals. The biggest thing we can do is embrace this love and passion we have for horses and let it shape us and change us and make us better people.
Wonderful. Hey, one of the things I got to let everybody know is we may be having an issue with our IHA Live discount. If you'll send an email to info@internationalhorsemanship.org, we'll help you through that. So we want to make sure everybody's able to be successful from that. Those of you who are on the call. Oh, I love it. Patty Woodward says, do we have the A as in all animals?
The A chromosome, yes. Some of us do.
All animals.
Yeah.
Well, let's just check and see if we got anything else coming on here. I know some folks are starting to have to leave, so we should probably. Oh, this is one I didn't want to miss. Kim asks that, do you recommend finishing our foundation first, because she's working through the level 2 in Pirelli, and I have a lot to say about it, but I don't want to take from you here, because in level 2 there's a certain amount of skill set you can go off on, and then in the 3 and 4, which are especially if we get into collection. Let me ask you the question from her, which is, how do you manage your foundation versus going off and doing some performance?
Oh, what a great question. What a really great question. Think of your foundation as 4. I actually have six I have 6 legs on my chair. But in Pirelli, we learn about 4 legs. We have a 4-legged chair. We have online. We have liberty. We have freestyle, and we have finesse. Those are 4 legs of a chair. If you take one of those legs away, you have a less stable chair. Some 3-legged chairs, if they're designed right, are just fine. But a 4-legged chair is more stable. And that was something Pat Pirelli actually taught me. I'll never forget that lesson. I'll never forget when Pat Pirelli said, I wish I'd started doing finesse earlier in the foundation work. And what that means is that when you ask your horse to go sideways on the ground, when you ask your horse to back up from your porcupine game, what that means is you don't just think about the feet going backwards or sideways. You think about the head lining up with the shoulders, lining up with the hips. You think about the hand yielding the head to be soft and quiet and calm. And everything you do in the foundation leads to finesse if you do it this way. Everything does. When you're on your horse and you're standing at the mounting block and you think, let's go for a walk, just before you squeeze to go into that walk, you might touch the horse on the reins and ask for the tiniest yes answer to any kind of lateral flexion. And when they say yes, you're starting collection, you're starting finesse. So bring it in, put it into your early foundation work, and you'll be, you just be growing so quickly towards it. Yeah.
Now I want to draw everyone's attention to the chat before we go, because you'll get a chance if you jump in and get that chat. it's got the link directly to Don's Mastery University, or you can go to his masteryhorsemanship.com, and I was able to find it by looking at through the university, and he's got a whole bunch of great stuff there to support you. And I think that's a great opportunity for all of us relationship-based horsemanship people to connect with Don, and I love it.
Thank you. Can I say one thing about that, Andrew?
Absolutely, yeah.
On my website, you can click on the word products and the word books. And I want you to know that because of this, I talked to my wife earlier today, and I thought we got to offer them some kind of discount for joining this call and listening to us talking about horses and passion, and give them something. So if you get on my website and you want to buy any one of my books, there's a discount code. I don't have it with me to give you. I just finished a book series called Inspiration and Leadership. 3 books. You can just buy book 1 if you want, but 3 volumes in a series. You get a little bit of a discount if you buy all 3. But there's a code you got to put in, and you get a 20% discount on any one of my books. It's IHA Live. It's the same as, it's not the same code you got, but it's close. IHA Live. If you type in that code, that means you are here today. You get 20% off of my books. And I don't think that lasts. I think Rachel's got that up for about 24 hours or so. So if you want to read, if you like to be inspired, jump on. If you want the technical stuff with the other information, take a look at the books that we have for sale there.
Cool. Now, Lisa, that is IHA Live with all caps.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Don, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight. I just love being a part of relationship-based horsemanship. Is one of the greatest things that happened to me back in 2000 when I discovered, what Pat and Linda were doing.
Yeah.
And then, I met along the way so many wonderful people, including Dr. Miller, your wife, you, Farah, and so many people that are on this call that I continue to enjoy. I am so thankful that you came tonight. Farah sent you some great compliments. Thank you to everyone on the call for coming tonight. Thank you to Farah Green for what you're doing, leading us here in the IHA, the International Horsemanship. I hope people will join. It's a way to support the organization. It's still growing, and they're all volunteer right now. So let's see what we can do to support. Don, do you have anything last that you want to say before we say goodnight?
I don't want to say goodnight. Is that okay? Can we just keep this going for like hour after hour after hour? This is
I'd love to.
I know we gotta go. But this is how fun horses are for me. And I just want to say thanks to you. You guys are doing a great job, Andrew and the team there. All you guys back behind IHA doing a fantastic job. Thank you for putting out better horsemanship and inviting better horsemanship. And people who study with you are going to get different things than people who study with me, but they're not supposed to be opposing things. There's just more. And I invite any one of my students who follow me to jump on IHA and embrace what they have to share, and vice versa. Just let's grow together and have a time of our lives. Do what you can. If you can't do much, then buy a book and learn from that. Get on these calls. I mean, what a wonderful world we live in, and you're part of that, Andrew. Thanks for, and IHA, thanks for having me on and putting this on tonight.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here for the horse, the people that love them, and wellness for both. And the IHA is all about the same thing. We're all a part of the revolution in horsemanship and what it means to mankind. And thank you for being such an important member in the revolution, Don. And to everybody at IHA, Farah, Lisa, all of you that are doing so much hard work on the board, I want to thank you all very much. And may the horse be with you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bye,
all right.
guys.
Good night, everybody.